Hello there, this is the Entertainment News, and today we're going to be reviewing Batman from 1966.
What? I thought we were going to review the original 1930s comic!
That is not till another review.
Batman, he's obviously played by Adam West.
AKA, I don't know, he basically reprises his role so many times in so many different ways, such as Mermaid Man and Catman, and Batman again returned to Caped Crusaders, the actual sequel to this movie.
Anyway, the movie starts off with them trying to get to a yacht because there's some danger up ahead, and basically Batman and Robin race to rescue in their 1955 Lincoln Futura Batmobile.
Which I got it looks really nice.
And that's exactly what that is basically based on.
Yeah, it looks really good, and basically I really would recommend trying to get a car like that. Anyway, so Batman and Robin continue basically after being contacted by Chief O'Hara, and then they eventually get to the Batcopter, which is actually being guarded by the government.
Right, because Batman and Robin have literally free ways to get into the Gotham City airport. Anyway, they board the helicopter and they start to go flying.
Anyway, so basically as they go up into the air, basically we out of nowhere just see these people, well, salute them.
Yeah, because they're 4 police officers who are happy for Batman and Robin that they patrol the city, because they're the masked vigilantes.
Even though they should also be doing it with them.
Yeah, but the thing is, so Robin takes some pictures over the sea because the yacht that they're following has a kidnapped person, and basically Batman decides to go under his bat ladder to go on the yacht to see if he can rescue the person who's been kidnapped.
Anyway, so basically he tells Robin then, don't worry, I'll be fine, and basically he ends up going down, being unaware about the upcoming trap that was apparently set for him. And
yeah,
basically,
foreshadowing.
And basically, in reality, well, it turned out, oh, what's this?
Yeah,
like,
before
why can't
anything,
I land on you?
Yeah, because unfortunately when he notices something about the yacht, he gets really close to it because it's like literally just right over it. And the crazy strange thing is the yacht ends up disappearing, and it turns out that, yes, later in the movie it's gonna be
revealed that basically it was an actual hologram.
And we can see Batman lands into the water, but trouble arises, as you said before, because he gets a shark literally bitten on his leg, which is really painful, but it's not a real shark, even in the movie.
Yeah.
So he calls Robin to go help him by asking him to bring him some shark repellent bat spray.
Yeah, seriously, I'll never understand why they have that anyway, but whatever, why not? They have the anti-venom later.
And Robin takes the shark repellent spray and climbs the bat ladder to give it to Batman so that he can take that damn shark off of his leg. And so he gives it to him and he sprays it all over the shark.
And it actually does end up working, and I gotta admit, I do like in terms of the detail here, especially when the exploding shark happens. This is actually the first time where a shark ever exploded in one of these types of movies.
Yeah, anyway, then the next scene follows by a press conference that's being held at the Gotham City Police Department, where Batman and Robin are actually answering some questions. So one of the people at the news stations are asking him about why that yacht actually disappeared.
Including Mr. Chief O'Hara.
Yeah, Chief O'Hara is actually basically Commissioner Gordon's assistant, I would have to say. He's just the chief of police. And Batman can't answer most of these questions because everyone around him is literally asking him about the yacht.
And basically, then I don't know, one of them gets about their questions about their identity. See that woman in that weird hat there? Basically, she actually asked them about their identities things, but they don't really want to reveal it because, you know, secret identity. And basically,
she asked for a better picture. That's why she asked him to take off the mask, which sends Chief O'Hara and Commissioner Gordon to be mad about that because they cannot reveal their secret identities. And Batman as well confronts her and tells her.
Yeah, basically, even then, you could pretty much realize that something is off about this one when it turns out, what's this? It's Miss Kit Kat.
Yeah, because you'll find out who she is later, and she's a big deal in this movie. And basically, Batman calls off this press conference because it's pretty much useless.
Yeah.
By having Chief O'Hara kick everybody out while Batman and Robin stay.
Seriously, come to think of it, the scene is mainly filler in that first half of that. Anyway, so once everyone leaves, the actual scene begins where they're starting to pinpoint who basically is behind it. And the four of them together actually figure out basically on this TV, and in reality, it was out of nowhere. You see the Penguin,
the Joker,
the Riddler,
and the Catwoman.
Yeah, and for record, basically the actress that played Catwoman in the series is not the same one from this movie because, well, the original actress had a scheduling conflict.
Basically, then they are all starting to figure out what is going on because they literally figure out that the villains are actually teaming up together
And
to
I-
get them back.
And I like this scene itself because it definitely does show that Chico and Hera and Commissioner Gordon do have a purpose. I do like that little detail.
The next scene revolves around Miss Kit Kat literally going to this bar, this tavern where the secret villain's hideout is, known as the United Underworld.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting name. And anyway, so it is right then and there revealed that Miss Kit Kat is actually Catwoman.
Right, as we can see Joker, Riddler, and Penguin, who are just fighting over as Joker gives them a nice electric shock, as he always does.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So, the villains we got here are basically the Riddler.
Also, I love that suit.
That suit is amazing, it just doesn't stay throughout the other movie.
I wish it
Anyway,
did.
and then we also got the Penguin, who is played by Burgess Meredith.
And I gotta admit, the only real thing about this thing, well, it's just a good picture. Anyway, so then we got Cesar Romero as the Joker.
Oh, classic Joker, isn't he? Anyway, so Miss Kit Kat tells Penguin if they've still got the guy helping captive.
And I do like the makeup that the Penguin has on. It actually does make him look a little more like a penguin.
And basically, Joker is sent to bring Commodore Schmidt-Lab, who is their captive.
Oh, come
person.
on! Seriously, how could he not realize that the Joker was, the Joker? Really? That is most... If he thinks it's a uniform, then that is the weirdest uniform in history.
Not only that, but he also seems to think that that's part of his makeup face because of he doesn't get enough of that sea air, and that's basically him because he's held captive. Who's thinking that he is on this yacht, but this is actually just a prank by the Joker himself because he's the Joker because he plays this foolish joke on him, making him think he's on a boat, even though they're still at the docks.
We all live in the
Then we got the
docks.
reveal of Miss Kit Kat, who's actually Catwoman right here.
What a twist!
Anyway, so the Penguin wants to escape this place by having his two minions get them on their submarine so that they can actually trick Batman and Robin for a plane. While Batman and Robin actually figure out what was going on with that whole Mirage thing, because that's what Batman suspects when that yacht disappeared.
Yeah, and basically, it is soon revealed that, well...
It came from that bellboy.
Yeah, basically that bellboy had a hidden camera that was basically making this hallucination or simulation or whatever it was.
So they decide to go to the docks to find this projector and see what's really going on. And they get there pretty quickly.
Yeah, man, that was quick. That is a really fast Batmobile.
Because it seems that the Batcave is really close to the docks. And so they got on their classic Batmobile.
Or, I knew you were gonna say that.
Batboatmobile, whatever, a Batboat, whatever. And they race to the middle of the place to find that bellboy, while they don't even realize that the Penguin submarine is down below.
Okay,
Which is definitely shaped like an actual penguin.
Which, I gotta admit, I do love the artwork on that thing, sir, on that boat. It is actually pretty creative.
And Penguin decides to give everybody else jobs around the submarine, which Joker does not take very well.
And neither does the Riddler. And according to the Penguin, it's his boat, so I'm in charge.
Yeah, basically, that's some really good work over there, Penguin.
Yeah, nice way to become team captain.
Anyway, Batman and Robin are finally noticed by the submarine, and they head to the bellboy really, really quickly. So they got to the docks quickly, and they also got to this bellboy pretty quickly. How fast are they?
Maybe they're as fast as the Flash.
Anyway, this Penguin periscope comes out of the submarine so that they can finally see what Batman and Robin are up to.
Go Gadget, of course.
And they notice that Batman and Robin are taking a bat suitcase up there so they can fix the problem, which they're actually just going to see. And Penguin's looking at it through his periscope.
Yeah, and meanwhile, by the way, I do gotta admit, I do like the design in the submarine here. It actually does look pretty nice. Reminds me of just something out of Star Trek.
And the four-way periscope is really clever looking. Anyway, so Penguin orders Joker to load up the torpedoes so they can shoot Batman and Robin.
But the real question is, how are they gonna stick? Simple. Turns out this thing is magnetized.
Yeah, because Batman and Robin are looking to see if there's any suspicious stuff on it that could have made that yacht basically disappear. And they found a giant projector on the side of it.
Oh, nice projector.
Yeah, and in that point, Robin figures out what was going on with that because... And then Batman notices the periscope that was literally watching them the entire time. Stalk much?
Apparently, and then basically as a result of that one, they realize they're onto us. We better get away.
Yeah, because once they realize that they've been spotted, Penguin asks one of his victims to actually control that magnet.
Look at that suit.
Anyway, and since Batman and Robin are not pinned down, they're basically defenseless for a while right now. And then that's when they realize that they're in trouble and that the torpedoes are going to come right at them. But Batman has actually got a backup plan because if he uses his radio transmitter, he can basically reverse the polarity. Yes, that's what he actually said, and disarm those torpedoes that's coming right at them.
If you think Doctor Who made up that saying, no, Batman did it first.
Anyway, so Batman basically uses that transmitter thing that I just talked about, and a few times he actually activates a very, very loud frequency.
That'll disrupt the signal that is causing the magnetism, so as a result of that one,
It makes the torpedoes explode, but sadly they're still magnetized to that thing. And a few times he actually does get this right. Actually, 2 times he gets another one with that giant explosion. And the Penguin and the villains are just noticing that they might be using some kind of transmitter that he might think is just avoiding all those torpedoes. But the worst part comes where the batteries die out.
crap, the batteries are dead.
Yeah, and that leads them to believe that.
No, that's not the worst part. It's now the Riddler's suit now. Look at this one. This one is awful.
Yeah, when they realize Batman and Robin are dead, that's what they think, they decide to rise up to the surface to see the dead bodies. Seriously, they really want to kill Batman and Robin. And so the submarine rises up to the surface, and once Penguin looks into that periscope, he notices that, boom, it's empty!
Also, I kind of have to wonder this. What a camera in the periscope. Seriously.
Yeah. Anyway, so Batman literally phones the Pentagon to talk to the Admiral because he literally wants to ask him about something. And when the Admiral finally actually picks up, Batman asks him if any War Plus submarines have been sold, and he actually goes on to look it up. And once he finally realizes that it does, Batman basically guilts him into it because Batman realized that he sold it to the Penguin.
Yeah, and basically as a result of that one, he feels bad about it, but in reality, I would just be a little more mad at Batman right now for just like, hey, I made a sale, relax.
Yeah, and once they hear a loud noise, they scope out to look and find out that in the sky, the Riddler has literally launched a giant Polaris missile, which Robin
It's a bird, it's a plane, no, it's a Polaris missile.
And as I just said before, Riddler in his tight suit.
Ugh, that thing looks awful, I prefer the other suit.
Just launched it from the submarine, and he activates it to be exploded. And with all that smoke and all the explosion of whatever, it reveals in the sky 2 riddles.
Yeah, seriously, what does the turkey do when he flies upside down?
Yeah, these riddles are then later explained in the next scene, which Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara read them out loud, and apparently Robin's the only one who can figure them out. Anyway, Batman asks them to combine both answers, and apparently this leads them to believe that this is all the work of Catwoman.
Holy shamoly, Catwoman made up the riddles? No!
Well, not really that. The fact that Catwoman is going to be their next person in the verse, and that's what the riddles were basically hinting at. And Batman literally figures out that those 4 villains want to take over the entire world.
Anyway, so after that one, I just wonder how is that even possible? And
Hey, Riddler is back in his suit!
good! The right suit, please.
Anyway, they're having a meeting about how they're going to control the United Nations, but first Riddler has an idea to pull all their dastardly pranks on Batman in their own hideout. And he suggests that they kidnap Bruce Wayne, who they don't obviously realize it's Batman.
And they never do.
Joker neglects this plan because he thinks it will just not work.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with the Joker.
But Riddler later tells him that Batman will just go on a date with Catwoman as a surprise so that she can lead them to their villain's hideout and do whatever. And she can perfectly comply with that because she's really good at trying to convince him. And when she visits him, he's actually really impressed.
How does she know where Bruce Wayne lives? Well, it's Gotham City.
Pretty much everybody knows where he lives. It's Wayne Manor for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, she tries to tell him that she found some riddles on her doorstep for some reason, just to, suck up to him.
Yeah.
But Bruce Wayne's mostly focusing about how beautiful she is, more than helping her out.
Yeah, more than reality, it's just, he's flirting.
Yeah, and since he falls madly in love with her, he tells Alfred to escort her out because he has a mission to do back into the Batcave. And now this time we get to see Bruce Wayne go into the Batcave alone.
Yeah, seriously, I gotta admit, I do like the transition with the Batpools, I mean, some movies used to parody this later on. I mean, even a good example is like Sky High, for example, from 2005, that would parody it. But one thing I really didn't care for about the Batpools is just basically, well, you never exactly see how the suits get on them.
Well, anyway.
Until Return of the Crusaders.
Anyway, Batman tells Alfred that he and Robin will scope out the situation and follow them around so that he can be alert of any danger, and Alfred perfectly agrees.
But the problem is, wait, Bruce Wayne has a date. Hey, no problems. I wonder How the heck is basically he gonna be in 2 places at once?
And Batman uses the Batpole to get ready for the next date, and then we get like a large sequence of the two dating. Seriously, the first of them, they're at a restaurant,
More than likely, that guy was probably one of the people working for the Penguin.
and then they carriage ride around, which surprisingly after that, once they leave the restaurant, they've got the Batmobile following them with Alfred and Robin in the cockpit.
With Alfred wearing a mask.
Well, that's only to protect his identity so no one knows about him, his relationship with Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. And then we get another dance sequence and then another carriage ride with them. And this is where the scenes get interesting because this is where Robin finally gets had enough and wants to finally see some action going, so he phones to Commissioner Gordon.
Seriously, I just kind of wonder what would happen if Robin didn't do anything. Would the date just
And
have
for
gone?
some reason, they could see the entire date on the Batmobile's TV screen.
Yeah, I mean, that's just weird. So, dude, what would you think had happened if basically Robin did not, call the commissioner, Would the date just have gone on, like a regular old date, and then I wonder what Catwoman would have done, and it's just like, oh, this would have been boring.
Yeah, probably, but still.
Yeah, but
pretty fun to watch.
It really is. I just figured to point that out.
And basically, Commissioner Gordon gets the call from Robin, in which when he picks it up, Robin is suggesting that Chief O'Hara gets up to the roof of the police station and shines a bat signal. And when Commissioner Gordon asks him why, he wants to prove a point to see if the bat signal is set up. Batman and Robin will supposedly go and out into the streets to trick Catwoman.
Which I gotta admit, that is a really clever plan.
In which Commissioner Gordon says it to himself. And Commissioner Gordon goes and orders Chief O'Hara to light the bat signal, which looks a really, really nice way in a 60s movie.
It actually looks good. I could totally have been seeing that being done even today.
Yeah, anyway, then we get another nice chilled moment, but what Bruce Wayne does not know is that Catwoman uses a telegraph to report to the other people at the villain's hideout and try to just tell them how the whole thing is going on. And yes, these guys are just waiting there listening.
Not that suit again.
Yeah.
Anyway, seriously, I just got the feeling they were having a party.
Yeah, and while Alfred and Robin are waiting outside the apartment of where they are, we get a nice makeout scene.
Okay, well, what do you expect?
Well, it's just the usual casual Batman-Catwoman date, and apparently they got cameras to watch them doing it over the Batmobile's TV.
Okay, seriously, I kind of wonder what was going through Robin's mind. She's like,
Yeah, but
I shouldn't be-
Robin was the one who actually wanted to turn it off because it was kind of private. And then we get to see jetpack umbrellas, which would actually do return in the second movie.
Yeah, and yes, there's a second movie. We'll get to that.
Yeah, and so they're just patrolling down to see if they can find Batman and his cat. And they ended up intruding the apartment.
With
Okay, seriously, stop trying to sound like Pennywise. Anyway, Batman starts to fight him off.
And basically, as a result of that one, basically, you learn that out of nowhere that Bruce Wayne is actually a really good fighter.
Yeah, because he literally attacks everybody.
And actually holds his own pretty well. It just makes me wonder why none of them had kind of wondered a sec, well, why did Bruce Wayne, been able to fight him off so easily? I'll never know.
Yeah, but unfortunately he's defeated when Joker almost chokes him, and the rest of the guys end up pinning him down at the end of the scene. Anyway, while we follow back to Robin and Alfred back in the Batmobile, Robin gets a little too concerned and wants to just turn on the TV one more time just to see how everything's going, but it turns out to be a very big shocker moment because they're gone!
What?
Yeah.
What? Anyway, so basically they fly alongside the umbrellas, which actually also make a return in the show of it. And then basically as a result of that one, well, apparently some news reporter was watching this because apparently it hit the printer press.
Right, because now this entire story was put on the newspapers on the front head page.
Yeah, seriously, I just wonder who the heck was watching and why didn't they call for help?
Yeah, anyway, when Joker and a minion of his decide to build some kind of trap, because this is just for Batman, they don't notice that Batman finally wakes up. And what I don't really get here is, how does Batman not realize that Catwoman is just the same exact girl he just dated last night?
Seriously, that mask doesn't exactly cover her face enough to hide her identity. Even Riddler is worse with that.
Yeah, and Batman tries to fight these guys, but they just start teasing him because, he's just tied up in the back of his hands. And they just start insulting him a little bit.
Cause why not? What's next? The Scooby-Doo crossover? Oh wait, that already happened.
So Batman just orders them to tell him where Miss Cat is so that he can get to her, but unfortunately it doesn't seem too good for him because he gets blindfolded in the process. And what they do is actually a pretty clever move. They actually get Catwoman out of her actual costume and put her into the bedroom next to Bruce Wayne so that it makes it look like she was kidnapped with him.
That is actually really clever, and that's actually probably the best scene in the movie itself, because when you think about it, she does put off a clever rouge and a clever plan.
And Bruce Wayne actually reveals to her that he has some kind of transmitter behind his left elbow. And unfortunately for that, the villains are actually listening to this, so it technically cannot help Batman until he actually tries fighting him off. And so when they hear that something's crazy going on, they actually go back and release them.
Yeah, and basically, and then as a result of that one, he basically takes her away and then tells her not to do anything hard to Miss Kit Kat, only for basically Batman to, well, just wonder a sec, how'd I get into this? And then he breaks free.
Because Joker was literally about to get out that transmitter in his left elbow, but Batman ends up fighting them off because, yes, he's a good fighter. By the way, this movie does not feature the cartoonish POW gags until the very end, because these fight scenes don't have those.
Yeah, so basically in this case, you could potentially view this as a funny wrestling parody like we did it originally.
Which we can't do because these are still pictures.
We probably could, but we would only be able to use a few of them, like this scene.
Yeah, he basically punches the Joker, which in this shot alone, you can clearly see Joker's stunt double.
And then grabbing a chair.
Yeah, and with that, Batman, one of the minions, actually gets right onto the trap, in which he gets sprung out of the villain's hideout.
And so as a result of that one, he escapes and then...
Actually, no, not that. He gets plunged into the water, and because of what Joker said earlier about penguins exploding octopus, he ends up exploding with that, so basically that goon just died.
Well, this movie just got a little darker. Just like a moment to remember.
The goon who died from whatever year to 1966. So Batman basically decides to defend himself while the villains keep trying to help the door open, and so he just punches them in the face.
Oh, right in the face.
And so he decides to jump in the water. Anyway, when he comes back, he tells Commissioner Gordon to head back to the police station so that Batman will call him there. And they decide to go back. Why? Anyway, Joker basically uses his pills to knock out the captive so that they can transport it on the submarine while Penguin decides to test the total dehydrator.
Yeah, and basically it seems to work because it took out all the moisture from their bodies.
Not only that, but he points it right at them, and they don't even seem to react because they have no idea what's going on, but it's his goons. So
Seriously?
one by one, they just start disappearing while all the water gets built onto that tank.
They must really get a good paycheck.
And basically they were turned into dust, and in the meantime, Batman and Robin race to the docks because this is where they're going to try to find Miss Kit Kat, because that's where Batman and her were last. And we get the nice classic wall climbing scene.
Which was even reused so many times anyway, so they go there basically because, well, he was there before Bruce, and only to find out that the villains have left and took Miss Kit Kat, and only to find out that there was actually a bomb there. And so basically Batman has to learn to find a way to get rid of the bomb. And basically as a result of that, when he keeps on trying to
get rid of it, because the first place he found it was the villain's hideout, and it turns out that it's actually located in the pub, and everybody runs for their lives once Batman literally yells at them for
get out of here, there's a bomb.
Except those two women who are just eating
for reasons. Anyway, so basically Batman keeps trying to run, but then basically finds some people there, and he can't go that way, only to find then there's a person with a baby, so he can't go there.
And the band.
And basically, so as a result of that one, he literally can't go there because of the band. And then later on, he can't even just run, and everyone's running.
He was about to kill this couple!
And basically, it's just like, you don't even believe that. It's just like, hey, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. Anyway, so basically, it continues.
That's where this quote lies in the entire movie. That's why this movie was so popular.
Anyway, so basically, he I'm trying to find a way to finally get rid of that bomb.
But it finally explodes.
And basically, then Robin basically chases after him, and basically he's worried that something might happen to Batman.
Anyway,
we
when
find
he
out that he
arrives
was actually okay because the Batman made that he was hiding behind some lead pipes. Man, that was really exclamation quickly.
And basically, Batman was still sad, but at this point, we have Penguin who's dressed up as Commodore Shrinklab, who wants to go into the Batcave, but
they know it's the Penguin, and basically they just agreed to play along simply so that way they could just get this over with.
And Penguin can just do it because, you know, he just wants to plan a scheme, and these two agree, so they have to knock him out so that he doesn't see the entrance of the Batcave. When they arrive at the Batcave, Penguin is actually very fascinated to see what's going on, and in the moment, he's just looking around for a drink of water.
And basically, it's actually just to plain old rehydrate them, because remember, people, water makes up most of the human body. That's the moral of this movie.
Anyway, so he goes by this drinking water dispenser. While Batman and Robin aren't looking, he switches the water pressure up to heavy and connects all the little tubes of the dust from those goons and ends up literally bringing them up to life. And then we get a fight scene, but it starts off as a fight scene because Penguin actually
orders them to attack. But in reality, for some reason, because he set it on heavy, it caused them basically to be overhydrated, basically causing them to turn back to dust.
And to disappear. And when Robin questions this, Batman tries to explain to him that it's because that they have just gotten too hydrated to the point where they are not existing in this universe, and Penguin's plot fails, so they asked him to come back to the Batmobile so he can return them to the city.
Anyway, so basically, after a while, he finally does wake up from that a little earlier.
Because he had some little bat wake. Anyway, Batman in this scene actually gives Robin a pill, and this pill is actually going to defend him against the Penguin's gas, I would have to say. Anyway, when Batman notices that there's a mechanical error, Penguin sprays him with his Penguin gas, and with that, he literally just steals and hijacks the Batmobile to the point of calling it his so-called Birdmobile.
Which is a bit of foreshadowing of later on when Michael Keaton becomes Birdman. Remember, he played Batman in 1989, as we previously reviewed.
Right. Anyway, Batman and Robin are really mad that he just stole his Batmobile, but they have another vehicle covered because they are actually going to use the Batcycle. And they just go around using it, and it's just nice whatever.
Photography.
Yeah.
Anyway, so basically, after finally getting in there, basically, Joker and Riddler are basically launching some random missile that'll, I don't know.
Well, it's meant to actually blow Batman and Robin out of the sky because they found out that they're in the Batcopter. Anyway, it goes in with a really bad effect, but it was the 60s. Anyway, Riddler's really happy, but they're fine because they were actually saved by this rubber phone convention. Anyway, they spot two more riddles.
What goes... whatever. Ugh.
And then they realize that they have to just take no vehicles and run through the city while the submarine is really underground.
And basically, so we basically get, you know, a classic scene of the villains preparing while Batman and Robin are just running behind a green screen.
And they're to United Nations in New York. Anyway, Penguin was the only one who was able to actually get in here by using his Penguin gas, and
for some reason they wear masks, even though most people know who they are anyway. So
we enter the room, and none of them even notice that Joker is literally pointing this little gun-looking thing and taking all the moisture.
Maybe he needs some hair care products to notice them.
Anyway, Batman and Robin finally arrive, and they figure out where they are, and they confront the villains, but Kit Kat actually tells them that she would die if Batman gets closer.
Anyway, so basically, they start to swim basically to the submarine because basically they figured out where the four of them are, and then basically the four of them basically try to fire a missile at them to try to get rid of them once and for all. But Batman and Robin actually find a way to dodge the missile and make it look like that they got hit, but in reality they actually didn't. And so as a result of that one, the missile is basically coming, and it basically gets located, and it looks like they hit, but then Joker soon realizes that nope, that they kind of got hit a bit, and basically as a result, Batman and Robin now know where they are, and so basically Batman and Robin actually start shooting at them to try to make them surface. And basically, they have no choice in the matter, and so basically Batman and Robin do basically eventually force those people to literally basically come up for air. But it took some time. So basically Joker, Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman were stuck in it, and they had no choice in the matter. And basically, yes, like I just said before, they basically eventually shoot them enough to basically start to shake the bottles, and they start to come up for air. And basically then we get these interesting kind of effects here, and so the 4 or 5 of them, I guess, basically, are now just wondering, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do?
Until it completely rises up to the surface, and there we see it, while Batman and Robin literally attach their boat right to it. And this is literally just to show it's a German U-boat, and Batman and Robin are easily confronted by the villains, who then want to start a fight. And it's a giant fight montage, which is the best part of the movie, because this is the only fight that includes those words.
And basically, so they're kind of stuck in it, and Catwoman was literally the only one that actually stayed basically on board, because she basically wasn't fighting, and then she climbs back down, Batman and Robin go after her, and basically the mask falls off, and they find out what a twist. She's Miss Kit Kat all along, and basically right in the feels for our Bruce Wayne Batman here, and then basically the two of them are
Just
now...
handcuff Catwoman, because then Batman calls Coast Guard to get the submarine to tow, arrest the villains, and they find the vials, but Commander Schmidt-Lab ends up ruining the whole thing by sneezing on it, breaking it, and basically they go back to the Batcave and try to separate it while on the line with Commissioner Gordon and the President of the United States, who I assume would be Lyndon B. Johnson. Anyway, Robin thinks that they should do this just for future things, but Batman says no. They end up literally separating the dust, and they give a call to Commissioner Gordon, and the President knows everything.
Anyway, so they try to basically, well, put the water in so that way they could rehydrate everyone and return them back to normal, except for the goons for some reason. And basically, so it seems to generally all of a sudden out of nowhere, it seems to slowly work. And basically, but the problem is, for some reason, they're in the wrong bodies and they don't realize it. I don't get that scene.
In this scene, they are all speaking the incorrect languages.
They're revealing they're in the wrong bodies. So
and none of this is actually explained, as the end of the movie is where Batman and Robin leave the place by climbing out of the window, and then the rest of the people just look onward as Batman and Robin are shown last in the last scene of them climbing out of this, which is the living end.
So, a Batman 66 overview. Yes, we own the entire first season, the movie, and Return of the Caped Crusaders.
Which is the sequel to the movie that we will be reviewing soon.
Yes. You didn't think there was a sequel, did you?
Alright, the brief overview.
Well, first of all, apologies again at how many times
we've been uploading this video because of copyright issues, to the point where we use pictures.
And that's part of the reason why we're starting to switch. Anyway, so personally, this movie itself is interesting, and I think using basically the new and improved special features, basically with the special edition, basically does help a bit with the effects.
And not only the effects, but the quality in this is really improved from the 60s version.
And so it's an improvement.
And plus the cover.
Oh yeah,
this is the new updated 2008 cover.
Well, it's meant to stop after Christopher Nolan's did it, with the Dark Knight movies because of the backgrounds on that cover.
Actually, fun fact, this DVD cover was made before The Dark Knight was like...
Well, then it's gonna be a Batman... It was meant in response to Batman Begins, whatever.
Bro, yeah, because of the background,
yes.
It does seem like it could potentially be inspired by the Batman Begins poster, but the movie itself...
Yeah, anyway, so personally, this movie itself
is based on the...
And based off of the 60s TV show, and basically, no, sorry about everybody, this is only Season 1, we're getting it later, this is Seasons 2 and 3 later.
But Season 1 pretty much sums it up because it's the beginning.
Basically, this movie at the same time is like a backdoor pilot to the actual show itself. And
right, because the movie was the thing that started the show.
Yeah, and basically, it's an interesting introduction to Batman to say the very least. In my original review, I gave it a 7, but now the more I think about it, thanks to the improvements, I give it like a 7.8. The effects are better in terms for given the time period, and
I really like the plot of this movie. It's actually really clever.
My problem is the ending.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal, but it would have been really nice to see if they could have just explained what was really going on at the end.
Yeah, and even though Adam West and Burt Ward are back in Return of the Caped Crusaders, along with the main actors for Catwoman, because in the movie itself, basically, the actress that played her in the series couldn't do it because of a scheduling conflict.
Right.
And so basically, no, Return of the Caped Crusaders is not about basically them getting them back into the correct bodies, but it's basically, I'm just going to assume sometime during the series off screen they did it, whatever. And basically, it's an interesting introduction to Batman to say the very least, and it basically, if you like those kind of effects and the classic comic book style a bit with the goofs, it'd be an interesting thing. I mean, the Silver Age itself is what this thing was based off of, and the Silver Age, remember, was goofy, so And I mean, Batman had literally had a zebra suit and and basically Flash had a time traveling treadmill. Seriously.
Well, that's pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, basically that was the thing. It was slightly based off of that, so basically considering that's what it was based off of, the stuff, the goofiness that everyone complains about is forgivable here. And so basically, it's something I would honestly recommend if you're an Adam West and Burt Ward fan. And Adam West and Burt Ward have reprised the roles in several different occasions, like that 2002 documentary thing, where you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And then basically Adam West in particular has reprised this role, in particular with basically like Nickelodeon in a sense, where he plays Catman on The Fairly Odd Parents,
And the funny thing is, Catman actually exists as a real superhero.
and also he has voiced Mermaid, the young version of Mermaid Man on
Only
SpongeBob.
one episode.
Still counts. I mean,
But
Burt
still,
Burt
yeah.
Ward was there too for that. And also the weird thing about it is also that
Well, despite the fact that they did Return of the Caped Crusaders,
yeah, basically you know.
and I heard they're going to do more.
Yeah, there's gonna be another one. So basically, the Adam West movie trilogy. Anyway, so basically, the thing is also, this movie, Adam West has been a cultural phenomenon thanks to the 60s Batman, and here's an interesting one. In the early 2000s, you see, this was back when Batman Beyond was popular. It's still a good series. I'd recommend it. It's basically the Disney show Kim Possible basically did an episode where they decided to do it in the style of Batman Beyond, where basically you know Ron was was kind of similar to Terry McGinnis on that series, and the thing was, and they got to be the sort of quote unquote Batman influence, and basically they got Adam West to do it, and that was an interesting stunt because they could have gotten Kevin Conroy, the official voice of Batman, for the most part, but no, they decided to do it as Adam West, which was an interesting stunt to basically have Adam West basically do his own work with Disney to sort of create a parody of Batman Beyond. So that's an interesting stunt, and plus, hey, Adam West and Will Ferrell is pretty good in that episode. Anyway, this movie is good. I'd recommend it. I just figured to point that out.
It's a really good point. Yeah, I would agree with you. I give it a 7.8. It's a good range around there.
Yeah, I mean, if I really had to complain about something, I guess the ending.
Yeah, but maybe one day somebody will release something about explaining something like that. People just come up with their own theories.
That's what fanfiction's for.
Alright, that's all we have to say for this.